The sky above Velor burned with violet fire. What was once a world of peace and light was now falling apart, piece by piece. Floating cities collapsed into oceans of glowing trees. Sacred temples built from crystal and song were reduced to dust under the silent march of enemy machines. It had happened so quickly. One moment, Velari citizens were studying stars and singing ancient histories. The next, the Galactic Alliance declared them dangerous, threat, and now the Velari were being hunted. Their beauty had become there. Cursed in the shadows of a broken city, a small girl ran. Her name was Cyriel, only 12 cycles old. Her feet were bare, her face stained with soot and tears. She didn't cry, no, not because she wasn't scared, but because there was no one left to cry to. Her parents had stayed behind when the first wave of ships came, telling her to run. She did. And now she ran alone. Every few steps the ground shook from explosions in the distance. The invaders didn't speak. They didn't ask questions. They just dropped bombs and marched forward. Automated drones, silent walkers, skyburners, they moved like a storm. Cyriel ducked through fallen beams and slid down a cracked tunnel. That once led to a learning hall. The murals on the walls still glowed faintly with the light of her people's songs. Now they flickered, dying. She crawled under rubble, her breathing shallow, her heart pounding. Somewhere behind her, one of the seeker drones hovered past. Its red light scanned everything. She held her breath. The light stopped, then moved on. Silence again. Her hand clutched something, a small stone charm her mother gave her. It pulsed, faintly reacting to her fear. She whispered to it in her native tongue, "I don't want to be alone, please." Then a sound, a crackle in the air. At first, it seemed like another machine. But then she realized, no, it was a signal. A voice, old, broken, dusty, but there. "This is Earth Fleet Command," the voice said. Cyriel blinked. Earth? The humans? She had heard stories about them, strange, loud creatures new to the stars, too emotional, too chaotic, too wild to be trusted. That's what the Council always said. The Velari had never met them, never traded with them. But her parents had told her once that humans were something different. Dangerous, yes, but not cruel, not like the others. The signal crackled again. "If anyone can hear this, hold on. We see you. We're coming." Tears welled in her eyes, not from fear, but from something else. Hope, the message repeated. She crawled toward the sound. A small communication relay had fallen from the sky, half buried in rubble. Its antenna sparked. She reached out and touched it. For a second, warmth pulsed through her hand. The signal strengthened. Miles above, hidden behind the shattered rings of Velor, a sleek ship floated among debris. It was small compared to the monstrous fleets surrounding the planet, but fast, sharp, silent. Inside, Commander Raylan Creed stood at the observation deck, staring down at the burning world. His jaw was tight, fists clenched behind his back. "They're torching the whole surface," said Lieutenant Nyla Rios beside him. "And the Council's still calling it a containment operation?" "Containment?" Creed muttered. "They're exterminating them." The bridge crew was silent. The room buzzed with quiet energy. Radar screens lit with hundreds of enemy. Ships none human. No other race had lifted a finger to stop it. The Velari had asked for help. No one came. No one. Except Earth's Commander. Creed turned. "What's the status on the transmission?" Rios nodded. "Confirmed. We got a reply. Someone touched the signal beacon on the surface. Could be a survivor. Give me visual." Small holoscreen blinked. To life, static at first, then finitely a girl's face. Dust covered, eyes wide. Alive. Creed stepped forward slowly. "She can't be more than 10, Rios whispered. Double quotes. 12, Creed said softly. "They mature slower. You've studied them." Creed nodded. "My father worked with Velari language archives," he said. "They were the only species that remembered the universe singing. Now they're being silenced." Creed looked away, his voice cold. "Not on my watch." In orbit, the Earth fleet had kept its distance. Officially, they were there for observation only. the Galactic Council warned them not to interfere. Earth was still considered a junior species. Stepping in would break treaties. Creed didn't care. "Prep the drop teams," he ordered. "We're going in." The room went tense. "Sir, that'll start a war," said a young ensign. Creed turned toward him. "There already is a war. The question is whether we're going to stand and watch or do something about it." Down below, Suriel heard another. "Sound this one closer." A soft rumble in the air. She looked up through a broken dome, through the smoke and falling ash. A new ship cut through the clouds. Sleek, black, fast, not a council design. It dropped low, hovered, and opened its bay doors. Figures jumped from the craft, wearing dark armor with glowing blue visors. She tensed. Were these new invaders? Then one of them stepped forward, tall, steady, and knelt before her. He took off his helmet, human rough. Face, scar above the eye, but kind. He held out his hand. "You're safe now," he said softly. She hesitated, then took it. Behind them, more soldiers spread out. One of them placed a beacon and activated shielding. Another carried a medical kit. Two others stood watch with weapons aimed at the sky. From the horizon, more enemy drones approached, but this time they were met with human gunfire. For the first time in days, the Valari had someone standing in front of them instead of above them. The rescue had begun, and the galaxy would soon feel the consequences. The news of the rescue spread fast to fast. Less than a full cycle after Commander Creed pulled the Valari girl, Suriel, from the burning ruins, surveillance probes captured the images. Human dropships, Earth's armor, and unmistakable. Earth soldiers fighting back against Galactic Council drones. Within hours, every major channel across the galaxy was broadcasting the footage. The headlines screamed of Earth's betrayal. The Council, seated on the artificial ringworld known as Helion Spire, called it a direct violation of interstellar peace. Treaties had been broken. Earth, the youngest species among the stars, had made a dangerous choice. But back on Earth, inside a massive armored chamber buried beneath the capital city of New Geneva, President Helen Armitage stood at the center of a storm. The High Assembly of Earth, dozens of nations, generals, scientists, and diplomats argued over each other. The walls echoed with shouts of reckless, illegal, heroic, and madness. They weren't even allies. One ambassador from the Mars Union shouted, "The Valari were neutral, non-trading. We had no treaties with them." "Exactly," barked Admiral Dorian Voss, tapping the table with his cybernetic hand. "Means the Council had no right to destroy them. You've always said we stand for peace. If we watched this happen and did nothing, what does that make us?" "The truth is," said a cold voice from the shadows, "we don't know what the Valari did to deserve this.
Oh.
Maybe the Council knows something we don't." President Armitage stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "Maybe they don't want us to know. Maybe they're hiding something. But we just rescued children from burning cities. That's not politics. That's humanity." Silence followed. Then the screen above the table flickered to life. Commander Raylon. Creed appeared, standing aboard the Earth's flagship Resolute Dawn. His face was tired, lined with smoke and fatigue. Behind him, Valari refugees could be seen resting, sleeping on the ship's floor, some being treated by human medics. One of them, a small girl with glowing silver eyes, stood beside him, clutching his hand. "Earth Command," Creed began. "We have successfully extracted 43 Valari survivors from Sector 9, Capital Zone. Most are wounded. All are scared. We have confirmed use of anti-civilian firestorms and nanite toxin dispersal by Galactic Council units. This is not a containment op. This is genocide."
Yeah.
Someone in the room gasped. "We request immediate protection orders," Creed continued. "And I request full asylum authorization for all rescued Valari under Earth's charter." President Armitage leaned in. "And what do you expect the Council will do next, Commander?" Creed's eyes hardened. "They'll come after us." The connection ended. No one spoke for a full minute. Then finally, Admiral Voss stood. "We can't walk this back. Not now. They've seen our choice, so the only thing we can do is stand by it." President Armitage nodded slowly. Then Earth is no longer just an observer, we're involved. Aboard the Resolute Dawn, tension built with every passing hour. Ships from multiple council races began surrounding the Valari system. Not attacking yet, but positioning, watching. The humans in the CUM station was filled with incoming demands. Surrender the rescued Valari, evacuate the system, face tribunal, comply or be fired upon. Creed ignored most of them. The Valari survivors, meanwhile, slowly began to trust the humans. They were quiet, polite, almost too gentle for what they'd been through. They spoke in musical tones, and some communicated through colored light patterns. It was clear they didn't know what to make of humans who were loud, fast, emotional. But the children clung to them, especially to Sariel, who acted as both survivor and speaker. One evening, as the ship floated in dark orbit, Sariel sat in the observation deck beside Creed. The stars shimmered outside the window, and the remains of her world hung below like a broken pearl. "Why did you come?" she asked softly. Creed glanced at her, because no one else did. She tilted her head. "But you are few. They are many. You could die." He gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe, but Earth has a strange habit. You don't run from things just because they're bigger." Sariel reached into her robes and pulled out a small crystal orb. It pulsed faintly with blue light. "This holds memory," she said, "from our elders. They hid it from the council." Creed looked at the orb. "What kind of memory?" Stared at the stars. "Truth? A truth they fear." Back on Hellion Spire, the Galactic Council was already preparing sanctions against Earth. Ambassadors from the Koran hegemony, the Valari Dominion, and even the long neutral Zentari filed formal charges of non-compliance. Earth was to be isolated, trade shut down, access to wormholes denied, and if Earth did not surrender the Valari within 3 standard days, a joint task force would be authorized to intercept and contain the rogue fleet in secret. However, a few council members met behind closed doors. One of them, a pale, serpentine creature, known as Teacher, spoke without blinking. "The humans must not discover what lies in the Valari memory cores." Another answered, "They already have one. The girl carries it." Tertiary hissed softly. "Then we must silence them. All of them." Earth's top science officer, Dr. Kalen Marsh, activated the Valari crystal, HFY crystal. First, it showed only blurred shapes and sounds. But slowly, ancient symbols appeared: galactic charts, moving star maps, species trees, and then a shadow, a black shape moving between galaxies. It had no name, no language, but its energy signature was unmistakable. Something alive, something coming, something older than the council itself. Marsh's hands trembled. "This isn't a weapon," she said. "This is a warning. The Valari weren't hiding knowledge. They were trying to tell everyone something terrible is coming." Creed leaned forward, and the council tried to erase them for it. "They didn't want panic," Marsh said. "They wanted control." Creed looked at the refugees. He thought silence would protect them. He turned to the screen. "But they didn't count on us." Later that night, as Sariel rested, the stars shifted slightly outside the window. More council ships were arriving. The noose was tightening, but Earth had made its choice, and this time they would not abandon the ones left behind. The darkness above Vilair was no longer silent. It boiled with energy. Swarms of enemy drones circled in orbit like metal vultures, scanning, searching, hunting. The human fleet hovered just outside the atmosphere, engines on standby, weapons powered but not firing yet. The Resolute Dawn sat at the front, its hull scarred from the last escape run, shielding a small group of refugee shuttles still warming up their engines. Time was short. The window to pull the rest of the Valari survivors out was closing fast. Inside the command center, Commander Raylan Creed stared at the holographic tactical display. Dots blinked across the map. Peach Red 1, a council warship. Too many. There. Fleet was bigger, heavier, and designed for suppression, not mercy. A message flashed on the side screen again, unread. "Final warning, return the Valari." Withdraw immediately or be eliminated. Creed didn't respond. He'd already made his choice. They all had. Beside him, Lieutenant Neela Rios adjusted her comms headset and spoke quickly into the mic. Shuttle Team Bravo, confirm entry vector. No deviation. Drop window is 5 minutes. The reply crackled in, "Copy, Lieutenant. We're hot, we're fast, and we're not coming back empty." Creed's jaw tightened as he turned to Dr. Kellen Marsh, standing near the back of the bridge. "You've seen the memory crystal. What's down there? Still hidden?" Marsh shook her head. "We don't know for sure. The crystal shows multiple Valari nodes scattered across the surface underground vaults. They might hold more data, or survivors, or both." Creed nodded. "Then we bring them all back." Outside, the drop shuttles launched. 5 of them, shaped like iron spears falling from the heavens. Each one moved fast through cloud and ash, trailing heat. Inside one of the shuttles, a group of Earth Marines gripped their harnesses, rifles across their chests. The youngest soldier, Private Locke, stared out the side port, his eyes wide. "You ever think we'd be fighting them?" he asked. "Who? The Council?" Sergeant Danner replied. "Yeah," Danner gave a short laugh. "We were always going to fight them. Just a matter of when." The shuttle shook violently. Lights flickered. Enemy drones had spotted them. Bright beams of blue light flashed past the windows. One drone clipped the rear stabilizer of the third shuttle. Bravo 3 spun out of control, flames trailing behind it. Bravo 3 is hit. "They're going down," came the cry over comms. "Where are they landing?" Creed shouted. "Sector 4 dead center of the ruins," Rios answered. Creed's fingers tapped the console. "Divert Alpha Squad. Get to them. No one gets left." Behind, on the surface, the old Valari capital was nothing but bones and smoke. What had once been a city of singing lights and silver bridges was now dark. The air was toxic. The streets were rubble. But there were signs of life movement. Under the rubble, heat signatures inside collapsed buildings. The Council forces had done their best to erase them, but life was stubborn. The Valari were still here. Bravo 1 and Bravo 2 landed hard. The back doors blasted open, and Earth Marines poured out, forming a tight perimeter. Drones swooped in immediately. Opening fire, bullets and plasma filled the air. Human weapons were smaller but precise. The soldiers moved fast, sweeping buildings, clearing tunnels, carrying out survivors wrapped in rags. Inside one broken structure, Sergeant Danner lifted a stone panel and found a group of Valari elders, too weak to move. One of them reached out and touched his helmet. A faint whisper in his mind, not words, but emotion. Fear, pain, hope. "They've been waiting for us," Danner said quietly. "Let's get them home." But not all teams were lucky. Door Vo3. The shuttle that crashed had landed in the heart of the destruction zone. Fire raged all around them. 3 Marines were dead on impact. The rest were pinned under drone fire, trying to hold a ruined building where Valari children had taken shelter. Private Locke, blood on his face, fired shot after shot from behind broken glass. "We need evac. We've got kids here." Above them, one of the Earth fighters screamed through the sky, dropping a payload on the nearby drone nests. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, giving Bravo 3 enough cover to start moving again. They picked up the children, carrying them in their arms, running through smoke and fire as more drones arrived. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Creed watched the feed through his command interface. Sweat rolled down his neck. "They won't make it out in time," he muttered. Rios turned. "We need to pull them." "No," Creed said. "We send backup." "Sir, send me." Minutes later, personal drop pod blasted from the ship's lower base, shrieking through the atmosphere like a falling comet. Inside, Commander Creed gripped the controls, face lit by fire. His pod smashed into the ground just outside Bravo 3's position. He emerged with plasma rifle in hand, armor scorched, ready for war. Marines shouted in surprise and relief. "Commander on the ground, grab the wounded, form a shield wall." Creed and his team fought like demons, pushing forward, step by step, protecting the children as they moved toward the last extraction point. One by one, the Marines loaded the Valari into the evac craft. One child, terrified and sobbing, clung to Creed's arm. He knelt down and whispered, "You're not alone anymore. You hear me? Earth doesn't leave its friends behind." Wave of drones came, larger than before. Too many. Sergeant Danner turned, holding a detonator. "Get them out of here." Creed's eyes widened. "Danner, go." The last evac shuttle lifted, just as Danner and his team held the line. Explosions lit the sky behind them. The Resolute Dawn caught the shuttles in midair and pulled them into safety. Inside, Valari children cried. Marines sat in silence. Some wounded, some numb. Surreal looked around the room, her people broken but enlivened, then looked at Creed. "You came for us," she whispered. He sat beside her, helmet in his lap. "We always will." Outside the window, the stars watched. But so did the council, and they were no longer warning. They were preparing to strike. The Resolute Dawn moved through deep space, just outside the Valari system, hidden in the shadow of a shattered moon. Its hull bore the scars of war. Inside, the halls were quiet too quiet. The wounded had been treated. The Valari children were resting, but the silence wasn't peace. It was the breath held before a coming storm. Commander Raylan Creed stood alone in the medbay corridor, his hands gripping a datapad. He'd read the same report 3 times now, and still it made his skin crawl. Dr. Kalen Marsh had delivered. It only minutes ago, face pale, voice trembling. The Valari crystal wasn't just memory, it was warning. And it was alive inside the science bay. Dr. Marsh paced in tight circles. Holograms floated in the air, maps of unknown star systems, energy signatures, dark forms drifting across timelines. The Valari orb, now resting inside a containment chamber, pulsed with light, as if sensing their fear. Each flash wasn't random. It was rhythmic, calculated. "It's not just showing us the past," she whispered. "It's watching us." Lieutenant Nyla Rios entered, her boots echoing on the metal floor. "The Council's task force is moving. 3 fleets just left Hellion Spire. They're headed this way. We've got maybe 2 days.
Oh.
Marsh nodded, still staring at the orb. "We might not even have that long." Creed entered behind her, his presence commanding but quiet. "What do you mean?" Marsh turned to him, swallowing hard. "The memory crystal carries information from over 10,000 Valari. Minds, elders, seers, scientists. They link their consciousness into a single thought to store what they knew about the Council, about the galaxy, and about something. Else something coming?" She tapped the console, new Hala activated. At first it looked like a star map. Then the stars began to blink out, one by one, like candles dying. A shadow swept across them. No face, no name, just void. The Valari called it the silence that devours, Marsh said. They discovered its approach centuries ago, far beyond the edge of known space. A life form. Or maybe something more. It doesn't communicate, doesn't respond. It simply moves and consumes. Creed frowned. A weapon? No, a hunger. Something that unravels matter, Light thought. The Valari tried to warn the Council, but the Council didn't want that warning to spread. Fear would shatter their control. So instead, they destroyed the messengers. The room fell silent. Even Rios, usually quick with sharp questions, said nothing. Creed stepped forward, eyes locked on the swirling data. "All this time," he said quietly, "the Council has been hiding the truth, and now," Marsh added, "they know we have it." In the refugee hold, Surreal sat cross-legged beside, the glowing orb humming softly to herself. Round her, Valari survivors rested, their bodies wrapped in silver robes. One old woman stirred and sat up, reaching for Sariel's hand. "You touched the memory, child," she said. "You carry its voice now." "I only see pieces," Sariel replied. "Flashes, stars, something cold." The elder nodded. The silence. Sariel tilted her head. "It's not coming, is it?" "It's already here," the alarm blared. Across the ship, red lights spun in every corridor. Unidentified signature detected, Rios called from the command deck. One ship. No known drive type. No council ID. It just appeared. Creed stormed onto the bridge. Where? Rios pointed to the tactical screen, just outside sensor range. We didn't detect an arrival jump. It was just suddenly there. Crew watched in stunned silence as the shape formed on screen, black, jagged, almost alive. It didn't move toward them, didn't fire, simply floated. Like it was watching. Marsh appeared beside Creed, eyes wide. That's it? What? She pointed. That's what the Valari saw. The silence, it doesn't follow normal physics. It moves in patterns we can't track. Sometimes it just arrives. The moment someone uncovers the truth. Creed's voice was ice. So by unlocking the memory, we called it here. Rios shook her head. We need to get out, now. But then, something strange happened. The Valari orb glowed brighter. Did Surreal's eyes dot down in the science bay? The orb lifted off its pedestal, spinning gently. Its light expanded, casting strange symbols across the walls. Sariel stood beside it, her voice rising in song. Not words, melody, harmony, something ancient. The ship trembled not from damage, but from energy. Power surged through the hull, lights flickered, and suddenly every system began syncing to the same rhythm. Marsh's eyes widened. It's activating Earth systems, she gasped. Syncing with our tech, as if it recognizes us. Creed stared at the girl. Sariel, he said, what is it doing? She turned slowly, her voice distant. It's choosing. Choosing what? Silver eyes locked on his. Choosing who will remember. When the stars go dark, in orbit, the council fleets had arrived. Dozens of ships, armed and ready, dropped out of warp as the diplomatic channel flared to life. This is Council Command. You're ordered to surrender the Valari memory device and all human vessels. Failure to comply will result in immediate military delicts. Engagement. Creed looked out the viewport. You think I'm scared of your fleet? He said calmly. I've seen what you're running from. We are the law of this galaxy, the voice replied. Creed cut the signal. Then it's time for new laws. Inside the memory stream, Sariel walked alone across a bridge of light. She saw visions not of the past, but of many futures. In some, earth-burned. In others, earth-led. She saw humans reaching into the stars with fire and compassion. She saw the silence touch worlds, only to be pushed back by one race, only one willing to stand where others fled. She saw a future where the Valarian humans stood side by side, and the darkness blinked first. She opened her eyes. I know. What we must do, she whispered. Back on the bridge, Creed stared at the incoming fleet. His people were outnumbered, outgunned, and already running on half power. But he didn't blink, because now they had something more powerful than fire. They had truth, and the silence was listening. The silence of deep space was broken by the steady thrum of engine cores. Earth's fleet, small and worn but determined, drifted into the void between systems fleeing from the storm gathering behind them. The Council had declared them enemies, traitors, criminals, and now all across the galaxy. A bounty echoed from every data node, station, and port. Capture or destroy any Earth vessel harboring Valari fugitives. No mercy. No exceptions. Inside the Resolute Dawn, the mood was tense. The lights were dimmed. All external beacons were off. They traveled in full stealth mode, skipping between shadow systems, slipping through forgotten trade routes and drifting through nebula fields like ghosts. Every crew member knew the truth. This wasn't just a retreat. It was a hunt, and they were the prey. Commander Raylan Creed stood over the navigation console, jaw tight, eyes scanning the projection. The map glowed faintly, but red dots were spreading enemy patrols, scout vessels, informant drones. The galaxy was turning into a net. And Earth's name was written at the center. They've sealed off the Helix corridor, Lieutenant Nyla Rios reported. We can't double back to Sol, not without running into at least 3 blockade lines. Creed didn't look up, and we find another way, And the refugees? Creed turned, his voice low. We protect them, no matter what. Below deck, the Valari were quiet. Fear lived in their eyes, but so did something new. A strange light, a trust they hadn't known in a long time. They watched the humans work, watched them share food, speak kindly, guard them without asking for anything in return. For a people who had been abandoned by the galaxy, Earth's stubborn courage was difficult to understand. Sariel, the young Valari girl who carried the crystal's voice, sat cross-legged in the observation lounge staring at the stars. She felt the movement of the ship not just in her bones, but in her mind. The Valari memory was growing inside her. She didn't fully understand it yet, but something was waking up. Not just in her, but in the humans too. She turned to the old Valari priestess beside her. They're changing, Sariel said. The elder nodded. So are you. 2 days later, while hiding near the shattered ruins of a forgotten mining moon, the Earth's fleet picked up a signal, faint, a whisper, but enough. A nearby vessel was leaking distress. Pulses coded messages meant to seem like static. It wasn't. A trap. It was a call. Another Valari outpost, hidden, old, cut off from the others, still alive. But under threat, Creed stood before his command staff. We leave now, he said. Admiral Voss appeared on the encrypted line from the auxiliary. Ship Courage's flame. You're risking exposure. They're alive, Creed said. That's enough reason. Voss hesitated, then nodded. You have one shot, in and out. What? The system they jumped into was dark and forgotten. A dead star floated at its center, its light long gone. The Valari outpost orbited a hollowed asteroid structures buried deep inside, hidden from sensors. Earth scouts approached quietly at first, seemed abandoned, but then came movement. Human drones detected energy readings barely detectable, life signatures, and heat spikes. The Valari were there, so were the hunters. Council shock units, Rio said. Eyes locked on the feed, they beat us here. Inside the hollow asteroid, small fires burned. Dozens of Valari huddled in the tunnels, wounded and scared, as black-armored soldiers advanced with pulse rifles. The Council had no interest in rescue. They were there to erase history. Creed didn't wait. Launch drop teams, full armor. Minimal noise, we go dark. He looked across the bridge. We bring them home. All of them. The extraction was brutal. Earth's. Marines landed in total silence, moving through the asteroid's shadows like phantoms. The Council troops were precise, cruel, and ruthless, but they hadn't expected resistance. Certainly not from humans. Sergeant Danner led the assault, breaching the main corridor with a silent charge. His team cut through 2 squads before alarms even sounded. In another section, Private Locke and his unit located the refugee cluster. Children, elders, scientists, all weak and tired. One of them reached out and touched Locke's arm. You came, he smiled through the dirt on his face. We always come? Above them, the resolute dawn began to draw enemy fire. The Council had realized the humans were back. More ships jumped in. The asteroid shook as enemy plasma tore through. Rock. Creed's voice echoed through the comms. Get out, everyone, now. As the Valari were loaded onto evac shuttles, Sorel appeared in the core vault. Something called her there. Her eyes glowed faintly as she approached a second crystal old, cracked but still alive. She touched it and gasped. A vision ripped through her. Thousands of stars, worlds falling, and one word repeated in her mind. Soon she grabbed the crystal and ran back on the resolute dawn. The last evac shuttles returned. Enemy fighters were everywhere now. Earth ships fired back, engines overheating. The old Corvette Beacon Star exploded under direct fire, sacrificing itself to draw fire away from the refugee carriers. Inside the bridge, Rio shouted, "We're surrounded." Creed stood steady. "Go to full burn, punch through." "Do." It. The ship screamed through the blockade, shields flaring, hull tearing, but it made it out. Barely. Behind them, the rest of Earth's fleet followed, limping. Broken but alive. Later, as the ships floated in deep space again, the Valari gathered to rest. The second crystal had been placed beside the first. When the two touched, a shockwave pulsed through the ship. Systems flickered. Lights surged, and something began to speak, not in words, memory, in visions. The crew saw them images of civilizations eaten by darkness, races that no longer existed, and always the black shape, silence that devours. Suriel stood among them, her voice calm. It's moving faster now. It knows someone is watching. Creed stared at her. What does it want? She answered without blinking. Everything. The hunt was no longer just about the Valari, or Earth. The Council wanted silence, they wanted control. But Earth had something they never expected, a heart that refused to look away, a fire that would not go out. And now, that fire was being chased, but it was also spreading. The deep void between stars felt different now. The Earth fleet, drifting far from known paths, floated in a region untouched for thousands of years. There were no signals, no stations, no ancient satellites, only silence. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, watching, waiting. Commander Raylan Creed stood on the observation deck of the Resolute Dawn, arms crossed, face hard. Beside him stood Dr. Kellen Marsh and Sariel, the young Valari girl, who now felt more like a bridge between worlds than a refugee. The two Valari memory crystals floated in the containment field, glowing faintly, one pulsing blue, the other gold. Together, they emitted a low hum, like distant voices just out of reach. Creed had spent the past 12 hours listening to recordings, not just from the Valari, but from every known civilization that had disappeared over the last 1,000 years. Patterns began to emerge. Dozens of once powerful species wiped out without war, without warning. They weren't defeated by empires. They had simply vanished. They all knew, Marsh said, her voice tight. Not just the Valari. Others saw the silence too. Some tried to study it. Some tried to run. None survived. Creed turned to Sariel. You said it's not a weapon, not a creature. Then what is it? The girl closed her eyes. It's the opposite of life. It's the end of memory, the end of light. When it comes, even time forgets you were ever there. No one spoke for a long moment. The idea was too big, too terrifying. This wasn't about politics. It wasn't about species or planets or alliances. It was about existence itself. Earth hadn't just picked a side in a war, it had stepped into a mystery the galaxy was too. Afraid to face, Marsh pointed to a map of stars on the screen. Based on the velocity patterns and gravitational disruptions shown in the memory crystals, it's moving from the galactic edge inward. Slowly, but it's accelerating.
Creed
narrowed his eyes. Where will it reach first? She tapped a point near the center. The Helion Spire. The council's seat. Rios, who had been silent until now, frowned. And they're ignoring it? Creed shook his head. No, they're not ignoring it. They're covering it up. They're hoping it passes by them and eats someone else. They're willing to sacrifice everyone else, Marsh said quietly. Elsewhere on the ship, Earth Marines helped the new Valari refugees settle. The children clung to their human protectors. Some of the soldiers had learned simple Valari hand signs, using them to bring smiles and comfort. Private Locke gave his spare rations to a starving boy. Sergeant Danner taught two curious girls how to use a cum device. The bond was growing stronger. Earth wasn't just sheltering them, it was becoming something the Valari had never known. Family. But not all were pleased. Inside the tactical planning room, Admiral Dorian Voss's image flickered onto the holotable. His face was calm, but tension hid in the lines of his expression. We can't protect them forever, he said flatly. We've lost 2 ships already. The Council is pressuring our colonies. Food supplies are running low. Send it back. On Earth is starting to question this mission. Creed didn't flinch. Let them question it. When the silence reaches them, they'll remember who stood up first. We can't win a war on principle, Voss snapped. We need allies. We need a plan. We need what we need, Creed interrupted, is to tell the galaxy the truth. That stopped everyone. Marsh looked up. You're talking about releasing the crystals? Creed nodded. The Valari gave us memory, not to keep it locked away, but to share it. Voss leaned forward. You'll make Earth a bigger target we already are, Creed said. So let's be the kind of target that shines light, not one that hides in fear. The next operation was risky. The crew of the Resolute Dawn had to enter a long-abandoned broadcast array. Hidden in the orbit of a dead world once used by the Galactic Council centuries ago to send messages across sectors, the station was broken, dark, floating in silence. But if they could reactivate it, even for a few minutes, they could transmit the Valari memory across the galaxy. The team landed inside the array. Dust floated like snow in the zero-gravity halls. Ancient consoles flickered, weakly to life. Creed led the engineers to the main tower, while Marines secured the perimeter. Suddenly, a proximity alert flashed. Drones, not council models, something. Older, sharper, their metal frames bore no emblems, no voices, just presence. They moved. Like machines with purpose, but no soul. They're here, Sariel whispered, standing behind Creta. Who? He asked at the silence. In the deepest part of the array, the broadcast node came online. Energy surged through the tower. Lights blinked. And then the crystals activated, glowing brighter than ever before. The images from their memory played. Like fire across every screen in the galaxy that still had a signal, billions of beings saw it Valery's songs, forgotten worlds, fleeing stars, darkness moving like a tidal wave, and then Earth standing alone, refusing to abandon, refusing to forget. On planets across the galaxy, silence fell in homes and halls. On ships, on moons, in the Council's own chambers, truth was out. The galaxy had been warned, and Earth had become the messenger. Back on the Resolute Dawn, alarms screamed. The strange drones had opened fire. No warnings, no messages. Just destruction there. Not part of the Council, Rio shouted, ducking behind cover. There's something else? Move, Creed barked. Get everyone out. They fought their way through broken corridors as the array exploded around them. One Earth engineer stayed behind to hold the doors by in seconds. It was enough. The shuttle escaped. The station collapsed, but the signal had gone through. The galaxy had seen in deep space. Earth's scattered fleets received messages, some warm, some fearful, some threatening. You were right. We saw it. We're coming. Stop what you've done, or we'll end you. Help us. The galaxy was waking up, and Earth had become both the spark and the shield. Sariel sat once again in the observation deck. She looked at the stars. She no longer feared them. They saw it now, she said to herself. All of them. Creed walked in quietly and sat beside her. Are you afraid? She shook her head. No, the silence is coming. But now it will be challenged. Creed leaned back. Because of us? No, she smiled gently. Because you reminded others who they are. You reminded them not to run. Outside. The window. The stars watched in silence. But now, something in the galaxy had changed. It wasn't just Earth that would stand. Others were beginning to rise. The galaxy was no longer quiet. Since the Valari memories were broadcast, everything had changed. Systems that had stayed silent for centuries were speaking again. Hidden networks hummed with new life. Forgotten resistance groups activated old beacons. Leaders of worlds that once feared the Council now asked questions they had been too afraid to voice. And across it all, a single name kept spreading like wildfire: Earth. For some, it was a warning. For others, it was hope. On the Resolute Dawn, Commander Raylan Creed stood before a holotable in the war room, watching new messages come in. The channels were crowded with unknown voices, Slaylian languages, scrambled signals, desperate pleas. But a pattern was emerging. Worlds were reaching out, and not just to beg for help, but to fight back. Rios entered quietly, placing a tablet on the table. We've received responses from 37 systems, half of them unaligned. Several were under council lockdown until the signal went out. Creed scrolled through the names. Some he didn't recognize. Others were whispers from old wars. Few were thought to be extinct. "They want to meet?" he asked. "They're all ready." "Gathering," Rios replied. "The old trade station in the Moria Drift. Neutral ground. Claimed space. They want Earth to send a voice." Creed nodded. "Then we'll give them one." The Moria Drift had once been a hub of commerce before the Council claimed power. A station made of glass domes and iron bones, and now floated in the silent dark like a sleeping relic. But as Earth's shuttle approached, lights flickered back to life. Power returned to long-dead docking ports. Ships of all shapes and sizes arrive, drusted freighters, stealth corvettes, ancient planetary skimmers, even biological crafts grown like trees inside the Grand Dome. Hundreds of beings gathered, representatives of dozens of species. Some wore robes, others armor. Some came in silence, others shouted across the floor. And at the center of it all, a circular platform waited. Creed stepped onto it, flanked by Dr. Marsh and Sariel. The room quieted. He looked around slowly, taking in the eyes of creatures who had never seen a human before, and others who had only seen one on council wanted posters. "I'm Commander Raylan Creed," he said, voice calm, strong. "I'm from Earth. We're the ones who shared the Valari memory." A low murmur spread. Some nodded, others crossed their arms. "We didn't send it to start a war. We sent it to stop one. Not with the Council, but with something older, darker, something that's coming, whether we like it or not." He pointed up toward the dome's curved glass ceiling, the silence. "It's real. You've seen it, in dreams, in old prophecies, systems that vanished without trace. Felt it. The galaxy has been afraid to name it. So the Council pretended it wasn't there. They lied. They silenced those who warned us. And now they're hunting the only ones who dared to speak." He paused, but we're done hiding. The dome was silent. Some narrowed their eyes. Some leaned forward. One tall being stepped forward, a scale-skinned warrior from the planet Gyros. "You expect us to follow you?" she asked. "You're only one world." Creed shook his head. "I expect you to follow truth. If you do, then you won't be following Earth. You'll be standing beside us." Another voice spoke, low and ancient. A gray-furred being, with golden eyes. "And if we refuse?" Creed looked at him. "Then you'll face the silence alone, and you'll be forgotten, just like the others." He turned and started walking away. But before he reached the edge of the platform, the Gyrosian warrior called out. "We fought the silence once," she said. 1,000 years ago, we lost an entire moon. No one believed us, not even our own kind, but we remember." She stepped forward. "We stand with Earth." Another voice echoed from above. "The Council destroyed our temples for trying to warn others. We are with you." A tall insectoid figure clicked its limbs. "The silence came to our stars long ago. We fled. But now we fight." One by one, they rose. 100 voices, then 200. Whole clusters. Whole sectors. An alliance was forming, not of empires or bloodlines, but of survivors, of truth-tellers. Of those who had nothing left to lose, but everything to protect. Back aboard the Resolute Dawn. Hours later, Creed stood before a new star. Map, it had changed. Systems now glowed in greens. Who had joined? Lines connected them. They were still far apart, weak alone but together. They were becoming something new. Marsh entered with Sariel, her eyes full of wonder. "I never thought I'd see it," she whispered. Creed nodded. "Neither did I." Sariel stepped forward. Silence knows now. It felt the crystal speak again. "It will move faster." "I know," Creed said. "But you are not alone anymore," she added. He smiled faintly. "No, not anymore." Across the stars, the Council watched the movement with growing panic. The High Chairwoman of the Galactic Assembly slammed her fist. On the table, as images of Allied banners lit up the chamber, "They're waking the galaxy," she shouted. "We had control. They're breaking the illusion." A general leaned forward, and "Then we break them. One by one, Earth will fall, and so will anyone who stands with them. The order was given. The war had begun, but Earth was ready, and this time they had allies. From the dying edges of forgotten systems to the heart of rebellion worlds, a new symbol began to spread, painted on walls, broadcast on pirate channels, etched into data streams. A human hand, holding a Valari star. It was more than a logo. It was a promise that when the darkness came, someone would stand, and it would not be during the galaxy's silence. It would be during Earth's watch. The stars were no longer quiet. For the first time in 1,000 years, something stronger than fear moved through the galaxy hope. It began in whispers, in dark corners, on forgotten worlds. Then it grew. Across the mining moons of Charon, the frost cities of Ither Prime, and the jungle vaults of Xenos 4, a symbol appeared. A human hand, holding a Valari star. To some it was rebellion, to others, salvation. But to everyone watching, it meant the same thing. Earth had drawn a line, and the galaxy was listening. The Council struck first, a massive fleet. Thousands of ships strong descended on the Virulent Corridor, one of the new alliance's key trade lanes. They called it a strategic enforcement action. But it was not enforcement. It was a warning. They wanted to show Earth what happened to dreamers, what happened to those who dared challenge the old powers. But Earth did not run. Commander Raylon. Creed stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, watching the enemy fleet approach. Behind him, his crew was ready, Marines locked and loaded, engineers focused, pilots calm, despite the odds. Around him, on linked coms, came the faces of allies. The Gyrosian war leaders, the insectoid tacticians of Kretal, the noble monks of Salantau, different species, different pasts. But now, one purpose. Enemy fleet just exited warp, Rios announced. Massive spread. They're not waiting. They expect us to scatter, Creed said softly. Let's disappoint them, he opened. The General Channel. His voice echoed across the Alliance. This is Raylan Creed, commander of Earth's 3rd Defense Fleet. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to hide. We are here to remember those who were abandoned. And to stop the silence before it swallows everything. He paused. And if the Council wants to stop us, they'll have to come through us. The war began in fire. The first blasts lit up the void like a newborn star. Earth ships, fast and small, danced through enemy formations, punching above their weight. Gyrosian dreadnoughts opened with plasma lances that ripped through heavy cruisers. The Silentau used stealth fields to strike without warning. Each ally brought something unique, but they fought as one. Creed stood calm, issuing orders like a conductor leading a deadly orchestra. The Resolute Dawn darted through combat zones, shielding civilian transports, pulling fire from more fragile ships. In one moment, they lost a Valari carrier blown apart by 3 Council destroyers. But as the debris scattered, 2 human corvettes flew straight through the fire, colliding with the enemy ships in suicide runs. The price was high, but the Council was not fighting rebels. They were fighting survivors. Down in the science bay, stood beside the glowing crystals, they pulsed like hearts, beating faster, brighter as the battle raged. Round her, energy danced on the walls, visions of the past and the future all at once. Her eyes glowed silver as the Valari memory whispered its final truth. The silence had moved. It was coming now, faster than ever, and it had seen them. She opened the emergency comm, Commander. She said, we have to end this now, not just this battle, all of it. The silence is watching. Creed responded through static. What can we do? She turned to Marsh, who was already calculating power levels. The 2 crystals together, Marsh said, can form a pulse. A warning. Flare. If we overload them with the ship's core, it could light up the whole sector, a psychic scream into the void. It will burn them out, Surreal whispered. We'll lose the memories. Creed's voice came again. Do it. As the battle reached its peak, the Resolute Dawn powered down weapons. Shields dropped, drifted toward the center of the chaos opponent exposed. Glowing, the enemy saw it and aimed everything at it. Creed stood alone in the control chamber. watching the timer count down. Sariel sat beside the crystals, humming a soft Valari tune, the same song she had sung when they first fled. The song of memory, of defiance. The core surged, the crystals screamed, and then light, not weapon fire. Memory? A wave of light exploded from the resolute dawn, expanding like a nova. It was not physical, it was psychic, emotional. Every ship council or alliance froze as the wave passed through them. Inside every mind came visions of the forgotten, the Valari. Worlds in flames, the children left behind, the dead moons, the broken temples, the faces of the ones who warned and were ignored. Even the council's soldiers felt it. Some dropped their weapons, others wept. Then, silence, real silence. The battle stopped. Later, no one could say why the council withdrew. Some claimed it was tactical. Others said their minds were too shaken. But those who had seen the wave, those who felt the memories, it changed them. The council fleet left. The alliance stood, bruised but breathing, and the galaxy woke up. Back aboard the resolute dawn, the crystals were gone, burned out there. Light faded, Sariel collapsed, eyes closed but smiling. Creed carried her to the med bay. The crew gathered in quiet. They had lost friends, ships, time. But they had won something greater. A future. Months passed. The council lost power. Worlds broke away. Truth became stronger than fear, and Earth. Earth became the new light. They never asked to lead. They never asked for glory, but when every race was abandoned, Earth stood up. When every world fell silent, Earth raised its voice, and when the darkness came, Earth said, "Not on our time."